The life and sad ending of Jean Arthur. Jean Arthur, born Gladys Georgiana Green, was born October 17, 1900, in Plattsburgh, New York, to Protestant parents, Johanna Augusta Nelson and Hubert Sidney Green. Johanna and Hubert were married in Billings, Montana on July 7, 1890. Gladys's three older brothers, Donald Hubert Green, born 1890, Robert Brazier Green, 1892, and Albert Sidney Green, 1894, were born in the West. Around 1897, Hubert moved his wife and three sons from Billings to Plattsburgh so he could work as a photographer at the Woodward Studios on Clinton Street. The Greens lived on and off in Westbrook, Maine from 1908 to 1915, while Gladys's father worked at Lamson Studios in Portland, Maine. Relocating in 1915 to New York City, the family settled in the Washington Heights neighborhood at 573 West 159th Street of Upper Manhattan, and Hubert worked at Ira L. Hill's photographic studio on Fifth Avenue. Gladys dropped out of high school in her junior year due to a change in family circumstances. Presaging many of her later film roles, she worked as a stenographer on Bond Street in Lower Manhattan during and after World War I. Both her father and siblings registered for the draft. Her brother Albert died in 1926 as a result of respiratory injuries suffered during a mustard gas attack during World War I. Discovered by Fox Film Studios while she was doing commercial modeling in New York City in the early 1920s, the newly named Jean Arthur landed a one-year contract and debuted in the silent film Cameo Kirby in 1923, directed by John Ford. She reputedly took her stage name from two of her greatest heroes, Joan of Arc and King Arthur. Following the small role in Cameo Kirby, she received her first female lead role in The Temple of Venus in 1923, a plotless tale about a group of dancing nymphs. Dissatisfied with her lack of acting talent, the film's director, Henry Otto, replaced Arthur with actress Mary Philbin during the third day of shooting. She was planning on leaving the California film industry for good, but reluctantly stayed due to her contract and appeared in comedy shorts instead. Despite lacking the required talent, Arthur liked acting, which she perceived as an outlet. Change came one day when she showed up at the lot of Action Pictures, which produced B westerns, and impressed its owner, Lester F. Scott Jr., with her presence. He decided to take a chance on a complete unknown, and she was cast in over 20 westerns in a 2-year period. The films were moderately successful in second-rate Midwestern theaters, though Arthur received no official attention. Aside from appearing in films for Action Pictures between 1924 and 1926, she worked in some independent westerns, including The Drugstore Cowboy in 1925 and westerns for Poverty Row. In 1927, Arthur attracted more attention when she appeared opposite Mae Bush and Charles Delaney as the gold-digging chorus girl in Husband Hunters. Subsequently, she was romanced by actor Monty Banks in Horseshoes in 1927, both a commercial and critical success. She was cast on Banks's insistence and received a salary of $700. In 1928, she signed to a small role in Warming Up, a film produced for a big studio, Famous Players Lasky, and featuring major star Richard Dix. Promoted as the studio's first sound film, it received wide media attention. The success of Warming Up resulted in Arthur being signed to a 3-year contract with the studio, soon to be known as Paramount Pictures, at $150 a week. With the rise of talkies in the late 1920s, Arthur was among the many silent screen actors of Paramount Pictures realizing that the craze for sound films was not a phase. She met with sound coach Roy Pomeroy. It was her distinctive, throaty voice, in addition to some stage training on Broadway in the early 1930s, that eventually helped her to make her a star in the talkies. In late 1931, Arthur returned to New York City, where a Broadway agent cast Arthur in an adaptation of Lysistrata, which opened at the Riviera Theater on January 24, 1932. A few months later, she made her Broadway debut with Foreign Affairs, opposite Dorothy Gish and Osgood Perkins. Even though the play did not fare well and closed after 23 performances, critics were impressed by her work on stage. She won the female lead in The Man Who Reclaimed His Head, which opened on September 8, 1932, at the Broadhurst Theater to mostly mixed notices for Arthur, and negative reviews for the play caused the production to be halted quickly. Arthur returned to California for the holidays and appeared in the RKO film The Past of Mary Holmes, her first film in 2 years. The Curtain Rises, which ran from October to December 1933, was Arthur's first Broadway play in which she was the center of attention. With an improved resume, she returned to Hollywood in late 1933 and turned down several contract offers until she was asked to meet with an executive from Columbia Pictures. Arthur agreed to star in a film, Whirlpool, in 1934, and during production, she was offered a long-term contract that promised financial stability for both her and her parents. Even though hesitant to give up her stage career, Arthur signed the 5-year contract on February 14, 1934. In 1935, at age 34, Arthur starred opposite Edward G. Robinson in the gangster farce The Whole Town's Talking, also directed by Ford, and her popularity began to rise. It was the first time Arthur portrayed a hard-boiled working girl with a heart of gold, the type of role she would be associated with for the rest of her career. The turning point in Arthur's career came when she was chosen by Frank Capra to star in Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. Capra had spotted her in a daily rush from the film Whirlpool in 1934 and convinced Cohn to have a Columbia Studios sign her for his next film as tough newspaper woman who falls in love with a country bumpkin millionaire. In 1936 alone, she earned $119,000, more than the President of the United States and baseball player Lou Gehrig. With fame also came media attention, something Arthur greatly disliked. Arthur's next film was The Ex-Mrs. Bradford in 1936, on loan to RKO Pictures, in which she starred opposite William Powell on his insistence, and hoped to take a long vacation afterwards. Cohn, however, rushed her into 2 more productions, Adventure in Manhattan, 1936, and More Than a Secretary, in the same year. Neither film attracted much attention. Next, again without pause, she was reteamed with Cooper, playing Calamity Jane in Cecil B. DeMille's The Plainsman in 1936, on another loan, this time for Paramount Pictures. Afterwards, she appeared as a working girl, her typical role, in Mitchell Leeson's screwball comedy Easy Living in 1937 with Ray Milland. She followed with another screwball comedy, Capra's You Can't Take It With You, which teamed her with James Stewart. The film won an Academy Award for Best Picture, with Arthur getting top billing. So strong was her box office appeal by now that she was one of 4 finalists for the role of Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind in 1939. Arthur remained Columbia's top star until the mid-1940s. Arthur retired when her contract with Columbia Pictures expired in 1944. For the next several years, she turned down virtually all film offers, the 2 exceptions being Billy Wilder's A Foreign Affair in 1948, in which she played a congresswoman and rival of Marlene Dietrich, and as a homesteader's wife in the classic western Shane in 1953, which turned out to be the biggest box office hit of her career. The latter was her final film, and the only color film in which she appeared. She did score a major triumph on Broadway in 1950, starring in Leonard Bernstein's adaptation of Peter Pan, playing the title character when she was almost 50. After Shane and the Broadway play Joan of Arc, Arthur went into retirement for 12 years. In 1965, she returned to show business in an episode of Gunsmoke. In 1966, the extremely reclusive Arthur took on the role of Patricia Marshall, an attorney, on her own television sitcom, The Jean Arthur Show, which was canceled mid-season by CBS after only 12 episodes. At the end of her career, Arthur decided to teach drama, first at Vassar College and then at the North Carolina School of the Arts. Her first marriage to photographer Julian Anker in 1928 was annulled after 1 day. She married producer Frank Ross Jr. in 1932. They divorced in 1949. She had no children by either union. Sadly, Arthur died from heart failure June 19, 1991, at the age of 90. No funeral service was held. She was cremated and her remains were scattered off the coast of Point Lobos, California.